Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Fanon. I am a graduate of the Baltimore School for the Arts, class of 2017. I was an actor. Um, I wanted to share something that I've been writing over the past couple days in response to everything that's happening at BSA right now. If you're not connected to the BSA community, I still would love for you to engage in this in some way, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of the things that I talk about are things that apply to pretty much everything that I look at in the world. So I hope that it brings you something. In the park, 2 blocks from my apartment in Philadelphia, I'm speaking on the phone with one of my best friends. Brought together in our adolescence, fate, or God, or sheer luck placed us together in the same ensemble at the Baltimore School for the Arts. Here we sit, 8 years later, 100 miles away from each other, speaking words to the years we spent walking those halls. It is beautiful, it is loving, and it is painful. This was a conversation inspired by the Survivors of BSA Instagram page, a collection of anonymous submissions from current and former students detailing their experiences of sexual assault and sexual harassment, and the gross failures of the school to protect them. We talked about our own experiences, struck by the similarities to those of the current student body. It was hard to talk about. It brought up a lot of stuff for both of us that we'd not thought of in years, and poked at wounds we thought had healed. And wounds we didn't even know were there. We're pissed. We tried to imagine processing these traumas years ago in the thick of it all in the way that you all are doing now. It sounds exhausting and painful and really fucking hard. Made more exhausting by the expectation that one must be cordial and kind in any expression of pain. No. It is a terribly stupid idea in our culture that one must not react emotionally in order to be taken seriously. This idea is used as a weapon by people who benefit from misogyny, and it is used to silence, shame, and invalidate the voices of the oppressed, particularly queer and trans people of color. Do not let anyone deprive you of your raw, messy, loud, imperfect anger, rage, heartbreak, or love. To deny you of this is to deny you of your humanity, and it strips away any real chance of connection, understanding, and change. This is your fire, and that's what they're scared of. Fire has historically been wielded with great mastery by Native Americans who utilized it by burning specific parts of an ecosystem with extreme care to reduce insect infestations, to stimulate the production of specific plants, to create diverse habitats, coastal prairies, to clear forest floors of debris, to prevent destructive and catastrophic wildfires. Fire shaped some of the most brilliant habitats on this continent. Ash acts as a fertilizer for new life. Colonizers banned the use of fire. They believed it was destructive and useless. Many of the wildfires we see in California and elsewhere are a direct result of the legal, institutionalized suppression of fire. It's egregious. It's violently idiotic. I believe that this fear of fire is the same as this fear of anger. The way we see fire used in revolution feels deeply rooted in the language of this land. I look to this history, and I see the ways in which colonization has shaped my own understanding of my own rage and the rage of others. And so I'm working on finding the ways that I can harness this anger to clear the debris from the forest floor and transform ecosystems. And until we can all do this, see our anger not as useless or destructive, but as a tool that we must learn to use, these wildfires will continue. The sky will glow blood red. Smoke will fill our lungs, and our communities will be destroyed. they're loud outside. So let's locate what doesn't work and let it burn. I'm excited to see what new ecosystems we might create together when we let anger ignite, change, and clear the way. In her speech, The Use of Anger, Women Responding to Racism, Audre Lorde talks about anger in this way that completely blew my mind. So I'm going to read you a section. She says, "Anger that is expressed and translated into action in the service of our vision and our future is a liberating and strengthening act of clarification. For it is in the painful process of this translation that we identify who are our allies with whom we have grave differences and who are our genuine enemies. We cannot allow our fear of anger to deflect us nor seduce us into settling for anything less than the hard work of excavating honesty. We must be quite serious about the choice of this topic and the anger entwined within it, because rest assured, our opponents are quite serious about their hatred of us and of what we are trying to do here. And while we scrutinize the often painful face of each other's anger, please remember that it is not our anger which makes me caution you to lock your doors at night and not to wander the streets of Hartford alone. It is the hatred which lurks in those streets, that urge to destroy us all if we truly work for change, rather than merely indulge in academic rhetoric. This hatred and our anger are very different. Hatred is the fury of those who do not share our goals, and its object is death and destruction. Anger is a grief of distortions between peers, and its object is change." I have the PDF of the full version of that in my Instagram bio. And now I continue, and I ask the administrators at BSA and those who wield power in this world, do you want to be the ally with grave differences or the hatred lurking in the streets? Hatred, ugly and violent and sometimes well hidden in our ecosystems, is like an invasive species, eating away at the roots of our trees, feeding on our humanity until there is nothing left. Hatred shows itself in blatant violence and bigotry, but it also shows itself in dress codes, in the sexualization of shoulders, and your violation of bodies and boundaries. It's in the particular way that you sexualize and fetishize Black teenagers who wear skirts or exist. It's in the innocence you grant their white counterparts. It's in the blame that you so easily throw at the violated in protection of your power. It's in all of the times that I've felt unsafe walking alone at night, or walking alone during the day, or in a classroom where I'm expected to be vulnerable. It's in the quick defensiveness with which you respond when you are told you've caused harm. It's in the, well, those are just the rules, I can't change them. Try to change them. I don't understand why you won't try. Because these systems are hurting you too. Maybe you just don't care, or maybe you just can't feel the hatred feeding on your roots, or maybe you think you're exempt from the harm that they bring you. You're not. So wake up and help the rest of us get rid of this infestation. Help us to wield our anger and burn down these systems that you help to uphold. Our lives depend on it. Wouldn't you rather say you tried? Dr. Ford, you say, quote, "We can do better in supporting people who are harmed inside the BSA community, including the accused with life experiences that made such acts seem normal," unquote. I urge you to get more specific with what you mean by such acts and who qualifies as the accused. Are you speaking of the people who've committed sexual assaults, or of the negligence from you and your administration? There are too many levels of this harm to group all of these people together. You're simultaneously rendering this group of people as innocent until proven guilty, while also explaining their behavior by saying that they just didn't know any better. I can see that you're using a carceral or legal framework here, but that doesn't work here or more broadly. We're not in a trial right now. We're talking about community accountability. Because we live in a system that normalizes violence on every level, I must assume that those normalizations are internalized. And until we all unlearn this wiring, we must assume and expect that we have caused harm, most especially those who have benefited from misogyny and whiteness. We should be looking for the ways that we have perpetuated these systems and work rapidly to correct these wrongs and change these patterns, as opposed to searching for all of the ways in which we're actually innocent. None of us are innocent, and once we recognize this, then we can actually move forward. Our work now is not to heal those who have caused harm, it's to hold them accountable. This is transformative justice. We cannot ignore the source from which this violence comes. The deeply ingrained colonist, white supremacist, violently patriarchal framework that outlines our lives. We are all traumatized. So what are you going to do about it? There will be no end to this harm until the source of the harm is abolished. So how are you working to abolish these systems? How are you using your power to dismantle these systems? Further, in this email you say, quote, "A faculty team has been trained in restorative justice. I hope that provides some tools to give victims and the accused what they need to grow as humans and treat others with respect. That's one of several steps we must take." End quote. I first would like to point out that your phrasing here makes it sound as though the victims in question do not treat others with respect, or that they need the same lessons in respect as the accused. I wanted to point this out as an example of the way that misogyny silences and attempts to suppress that fire that I spoke of. It sounds like you're telling victims that they need to be more respectful, which is why I believe it's inappropriate that you or anyone who's caused harm in this specific community should be the one to lead these conversations. If that's not what you meant, then by all means, clarify and take action. I was also excited by the use of an abolitionist framework like restorative justice, but I do question what this means in this context. Who is on this team? What is it that we are restoring to? There was no time before that worked. This system has always been harmful and oppressive. That is why we must transform and establish a solid foundation of reflecting and validating the real harm that's been done before we can even begin to speak of restoration. The entire community needs to be on the same page. So how is this possible if only a few members of the community are being trained in restorative justice? This creates a massive and dangerous divide in understanding, which results in an imbalance of power, typical of the very system we're trying to change. Hierarchy cannot exist within this framework. The beginning of this work is taking accountability, which by definition requires accepting the consequences of your actions. I hope that you'll be honest with yourselves about what this means, and listen to the people who you've harmed, and listen to the consequences that they believe to be necessary. I hope you, Miss Evans in particular, sit with this as you're being called on very directly to resign. If you're not willing to accept these consequences, then what else are you doing to take true accountability? Are you going to be the one who decides what this means? Is that fair? Are you causing more harm in the way that you're taking accountability? Ask yourself difficult questions. Sit in the anger of the people you have hurt and listen to what they are saying to you. You are repeatedly being told that sexual harassment and sexual assault are significant problems in your school and your community. You're being told that you have played a role in the continuation of these problems. What do you need to do to learn more about why and how this works, and about how you can begin to build a new kind of culture? Are there Baltimore organizations that use transformative justice and decolonizing frameworks in dealing with sexual violence that you can partner with to learn about how to break down these belief systems? What Baltimore organizations are working to call out the blatant and subtle ways that we replicate victimization and perpetration in our own lives? Where does misogyny live in you and in the ways that you think? How can you dismantle the systems of power that you benefit from? What can you learn and unlearn that will really and truly help? How can you love your community and yourself better? Hey, I stopped editing. This is me 5 hours after I filmed this. My ring light is off. I wanted to pause here and say something that felt really important. In editing this, especially right now in this video, I'm finding myself questioning whether or not I should even post this, and whether or not I'm getting too mad, or I'm getting too outspoken, or I'm being too direct and I'm being too mean. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Because I feel bad, because I know these people that I'm talking to, and I feel very emotional about it. Like there's just this feeling that I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Or that I'm over-exaggerating, or that I'm wrong, or that people will think that I'm being dramatic. So I just wanted to voice that. Because I think I've lived for a very long time being scared to hurt someone's feelings or to be dramatic. Because how are you supposed to articulate the kind of pain that you feel when someone who you love or someone who you're supposed to trust hurts your feelings, or makes you feel bad, or violates you, or breaks some boundary, or works in a system that doesn't want you alive? It's that anger that wants so badly to be understood. Honestly, I'm scared. And I just wanted to be transparent about that. Anger is a grief of distortions between peers. Who desperately want to be understood. After pausing during the editing process and then trying to put that in the middle of these clips, the transition back into the original footage didn't work. Tonally, it didn't work. So I am going to continue the video from that break. So with all of that said, I hope that you all know that I am saying this from a place of deep, deep love and hope for BSA and for everything that it could be. I think that the dreams that the students bring into these hallways fill up that space with so much vibrance and so much hope, and I don't want that to die. I learned so much during my time there. I loved so hard, and I had teachers whom I respect and I admired deeply, staff members who I trust and who were important to me in my adolescence and onward. I had peers who consistently inspired me with their artistry and their bravery. I don't want to see this school engulfed in the wildfires of hatred. You have a real opportunity here to be a part of the group that builds a new system from the ash of this old one. Help to locate all of the ways in which this school upholds systems of oppression, and then help us to burn those systems down. These systems live inside of all of us. They're ingrained in how we think about the world and how we think about community and in how we think about ourselves. Doesn't it make you mad? Doesn't it make you mad that these systems can live inside of you and can cause harm to the people who you love, to communities that you care about, that you're supposed to protect? So can't we just change it? We can just change it. To the current students of BSA, to the survivors, I stand with you with love and light and anger. I'm inspired by your passions and your battle cries. I look forward to the new life that springs from the ashes of all of this shit that you're burning down. Let it burn, and let it burn bright with love and hope for tomorrow. I want you to know how deeply your actions have moved me. I think that's obvious. It's lit a fire in me, and it brings me so much pride to know that you all who are walking the same hallways that I did are standing so firmly in your power. I'm here for it. This is off script, something that I have learned this past year in Philly from organizers in my community is the importance of radical love in revolution. The importance of dancing and singing your way through the streets as you're marching through all of the pain that you're sharing, all of it, that it can be beautiful. I think that's what art is about, right? I think that's what art is about a lot of the time. And yeah, radical love is really important, I think. And to let radical love and radical anger coexist. Back into the script. It's been a huge part of my healing process to realize that I have internalized so much, obviously. And I couldn't move forward until I looked at all of the ways that my own patterns were born from misogyny and from capitalism and from whiteness. Deconstructing, dismantling, and then demolishing where those live in me is hard and constant, and it's also fulfilling and liberating and necessary. I'm not done with this work. I'm still working, but I invite all of you to work with me. I have so much more that I could say, but ultimately I just wanted to speak into the world that I believe survivors, and I believe in survivors. And I believe in the people at BSA who are committed to changing these systems and building new ones, and decolonizing our fears of fire. My friend and I say we love each other. We are far from Madison and Cathedral, but the smell of a city in spring never really changes, and the fires we felt all those years ago are still burning. We are angry, and we are loving, We are stronger together. We are okay. We hang up the phone. I'll talk to you tomorrow when the fire dies down and we can begin our living. So loud. I wanted to provide some additional resources. So in my Instagram bio, there's a link to Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. It's a PDF, it's free. You can read it on your phone now if you wanted to. It's easy. It's essays and speeches, so they're like between 3 and 10 pages in length, each one of them, and just read them. There's also a podcast called How to Survive the End of the World that I really suggest everyone listen to, but particularly students at BSA and administrators at BSA. I really, really believe that you should spend some time really diving into transformative justice. It's with Autumn Brown and Adrienne Marie Brown. And 2 episodes, I suggest starting with the one called Beyond Survival, but really either one or both, whatever. Yeah, that's like basically my bibliography. Thank you for spending the time to watch this. It means a lot to me. Thank you.